Spoiler warning! In this video I will talk about major spoilers for Lostbelt 6 Avalon Le Fay, and if you have not read the story yet, I highly recommend you to do so, and afterwards you're done, you can maybe return to this video. I do think everyone should get a good experience of the story on their own, first and foremost. I'm going to do something I've never really done before. I'm going to talk about FGO's story. I usually mostly just blabber about it on my streams and whatnot, but this time I love the story of LB6 so much that I wanted to make a proper video where I just, talk about some of the stuff that I really liked and really, sticks to my memory. And also, I will be ranking all the characters in a tier list. Because why not? So yeah, this is what the tier list looks like, and I'm going to be placing them on it based on how much I like the characters and whatnot. Again, it's all personal opinion here. And I definitely won't be covering the full story. God, no. It's like insanely long. I'm mostly just going to be in a random order, talking about things I like. No chronological order, no chapter order, no nothing. I'm just going to start talking, and I'm going to cut this video in a way, hopefully, that, there's no downtime. Yeah, let's do this, right? The one thing I really like about Lostbelt 6 is that it changes the formula. Of all the previous Lostbelts, and arguably all of Part 1 as well, the story was always focused and revolving around Chaldea members and their activities. In Lostbelt 6, we see the story of two Avalon Le Fay, Fairy of Paradise if you will, and their journey throughout, the long and vast history of the Lostbelt, or Lost World I should say in this case. And while we don't get to see all of the history, the game also compiles notes that gets filled when you discover more stuff. And because of all the interlude chapters as well, and time travel, we do get a very good understanding of all the major plot points that did happen in the past leading up to the era of the High Queen, which is the one we're going to be mostly playing on during the Lostbelt. So I love that the focus is mostly on Morgan, and definitely first and foremost Arturia Castor. I think she makes for an amazing main character, and I definitely have found new appreciation for her that I never had before, really, besides her being an amazing, gameplay character. I also never expected her to have a goofy side as well. That very definitely caught me off guard. But I'm happy that she does. Because we had a long journey anyway. It would be pretty boring if we only had like a super serious protagonist, No one would blame her for being too serious or depressed or whatever based on, her experiences. And I might as well talk about Castoria first then, I guess. When they revealed in 6.3, the part 3 of the story, that how miserable her life was in Tentacle, in her home village, when she basically set out at first, her first 16 years of her life, it made me so sad, dude. Like, it was so depressing to go through her memories while we were in Avalon, basically. And because at that point we already knew that she's a Fair of Paradise, and she possesses Fey eyes, meaning she can always see what people's true feelings are, what they truly think on the inside. She always knew growing up how much people despised her, how much they were using her for their own benefits, and this is something that will add more to the fairy hate, which is definitely very justified. Bottom line is, the fairy of Fey Britain in this story are horrible people mostly. There are some good people here and there, but mostly as a species they are just absolutely terrible beings. I also really love the fact about the story that for a long part they separate Mashu and the main character. I love that. Not only does it give us more POVs of stuff going around in different places of Fey Britain, sometimes even different time periods, water mirror shenanigans and Mashu going into the past and meeting Aesk. In my opinion, it improved the characters of both Mashu and the main character. They had to, just trust that the other is just gonna be fine and they're gonna meet up later, And they had to deal with it. They've never really been separated like this before. Now, in regards to Morgan, I do understand why people like her now. I do. In my opinion, Arturia is the better of the two characters. I guess that can be debated, of course, but this is just my opinion. Of the two Fair of Paradise, I definitely prefer Arturia, but, she's also the main character, so maybe it's made to be like that anyway. I do like Morgan a lot now more, though. Like, I never really got the hype before, but knowing what she went through as Aesk, for all of it to only fail miserably time and again. There's it makes perfect sense that she would turn out the way she is, that, you know, seemingly she still hates people, although she's still trying to quell the Great Calamity, and even had plans to expanding Fey Britain outside of the boundaries of the Lostbelt. So I still like to believe that, yeah, she still truly cared about the fairies, but as we saw towards the end, the fairies definitely did not care for her. As soon as she lost power, they all just ganged up on her, and yeah, her death scene was, it was sad in more ways than one. It was just absolutely sad. I guess we can start ranking some stuff here. For Morgan, I want to place her in S, honestly, but I feel like, personally, I'm going to place her in the A tier. You can maybe convince me otherwise. Again, leave your opinions down in the comments as well. I'll gladly read all your comments as well. But yeah, I think Morgan is a great character. Definitely very vital for the story of LB6. Would never work without her. She is important, and yeah, I do like her a lot more now, though. Now, a member that sadly wasn't with us for too long was original Tristan. He joined us during when we first arrived to the shores of LB6, and then leading up to the human camp incident, where we tried to free up all the human slaves, and then Bargas arrives, and, you know, everything goes badly for us. It was seeming like a victory for proper human guys, or Knights of the Round Table army, if you will, but then Bargas just ruined everything, and it did at least give Tristan a very awesome moment. Him and his last stand against Bargas, being able to just, you know, kind of match her. Obviously, he still lost. Bargas is still way stronger in the story, but him just, you know, stringing her down, preventing her movement, it made for a very heroic exit, in my opinion. I will give Tristan a C tier, but yeah, he was a good character. I liked him, though. Sadly, not too much screen time, though. Now, let's talk about, let's mix it up a little bit. Let's talk about characters that people probably don't like too much. For instance, Bogart, the Lord of Sheffield. I assume most people kind of hate him, and honestly, I kind of dislike him too. I mean, there's a lot of really touching things or sensitive things regarding him and Mashu, you know, early on that people probably don't like too much about. But honestly, at least in the end, he still tried to redeem himself, you know, that it was just a shame that, you know, he was kind of a cold guy, a tyrant, if you will, trying to take the throne for himself or Morgan, but it's sad that he only realized it so late that he truly actually cared for Sheffield specifically, you know, his own city. But at that point, it was already kind of too late, and, you know, he was just going to die afterwards. So I do have a little sympathy for him. I'm probably not going to place him in the absolute bottom tier. I'm just going to put him in the C tier as well. Mostly because of the redemption at the end, but I can understand why some people would just still hate him. That's fair. Now, another character that people absolutely hate would be Beryl, right? Oh, Beryl. Honestly, I don't like him either. He's definitely not in my favorite cryptors at all. In fact, he's on the bottom side, if anything. I do think he's an interesting character, though. He's just a cold guy that loves killing, you know, a pretty standard trope for a character, I would say. But I do like that he manipulates people, like the way he was just toying around with Sith as well, giving her like all these promises and whatnot, only to discard her as well, like everyone else does, which again, really sad about that. And the one thing I thought was cool, though, that when they found Woodrow was basically beaten to the ground, they used Sith's sorcery to basically incorporate Woodrow's into Beryl himself, so then he could do the transformation, which I thought was kind of cool plot twist. And in the end, it was just a really sad ending for him. You know, he just couldn't let go of Mashu, even though it was clear from everyone else's POV that it was never going to happen. And the way his love for Mashu was never loved to begin with. It's just sad. It's just a sad character and tragic, but not really in a good, you know, empathical way or sympathetical. I still think, as Cole, I'm probably going to place him in bottom tier. I think he was good to be in the story, but he definitely left a sour taste in my mouth. Now, another character that is fairly interesting, but a minor one at that, is Mike the bartender. He's a really cool character, honestly. He obviously doesn't have the most screen time, but he's what I remember earlier when I said that, you know, not all fairies are like lost causes and that. Mike is one of them, and the final scenes of Mike truly show this. When everything was going down, the curse of Sir Nanos was spreading, every fairy was turning into Moors and whatnot, getting consumed by negative feelings and whatnot. Even he, like, at his final moments, he almost succumbed and turned into a Moors and tried to, stop Da Vinci from leaving because, she was really a great friend to him and help as well. But I'm so glad it didn't end like that he could still, at the end, cling to his, good side and just let go. And yeah, it was honestly a beautiful moment. I was really scared there for a second that he was actually just gonna become like the rest as well. But no, Mike was actually one of the good guys up until the end. And despite being a minor character, I'm actually gonna place him in the B tier. I think he was a great addition as an NPC as well. Just very, very good guy, honestly. And just funny to read him say Da Vinci all over again. It never gets old. Alright, we should maybe talk about a big character next. Let's go with Bargas next. Oh man, dude, I love Bargas now. I was a bit iffy on her, but man, I think she had one of the best character arcs in the whole story as well. She starts off by, full of, loyal to Morgan, very merciless, just, slaughters people, very ruthless and seemingly evil person. She obviously carries the curse of the black dogs and whatnot, which, affected her personality as well. But as the story goes on, we actually get on her good side. Truly, when the moment I started liking her was when she actually told the good guys, the player side, that she actually does care for fairies, which I found very surprising, but in a good way, that she actually does care about the people, unlike Morgan seemingly. Which obviously kind of wasn't the case, but you get what I mean. So when she found out that we could possibly, have fairies at least migrate outside of the Lostbelt to join proper human history side, she was kind of on board with the idea. And again, everything was going smoothly. She even betrayed Morgan because we made an agreement. When we attacked Camelot, she totally, bust open the gate which she was supposed to be guarding and let the army of the Round Table in as well, which was awesome. Like, she basically joined the side of the good guys. I kind of wish it was going to be a happy ending like that as well, with Morgan falling and whatnot, but obviously that wasn't the case. And man, her ending is just tragic. Becoming one of the calamities because of Kiernanas and stuff. It's just sad. She just completely lost her, senses and just became a mindless beast that just kept on ravaging throughout Britain. Very, very sad. I still love the character though, because obviously that wasn't her at that point anymore. It was just her becoming a calamity. But I do love the final moments where, Gawain and Lancelot are summoned. Oh my god, I just love that moment so much. Them fighting together with Mashu to stop Bargas' calamity was just, oh, dude, fan service amazing is all I have to say. But again, Bargas, honestly, I will place her in S tier. Again, this is just my list, but I personally love the character. I think her character arc was beautiful, and while the ending was tragic, it was everything about her just a lovely character. Very, very good, well-written one. I guess we should maybe tackle all the fairy knights at this point. So let's talk about Sith next. Of the three, well, not just three, but you get what I mean, the main three from Morgan's side, Sith, to me, is the least favorite one. I do like her sadistic personality, so it's it's very nice, because, I like that kind of stuff, but in the story-wise, she really, again, this is a common theme, but very tragic as well. She was basically this vampire that no one cared for, except for Morgan, that kind of showed her mercy, like, her life was miserable as well. She took a bit and even was gonna make her successor and whatnot. But man, it's her story, just nothing really worked for her. She got beaten down twice by, Chaldeans and whatnot. Everyone discarded her, even Barrow of all. Like, imagine the biggest scumbag ever even dumping you as well. Things are bad then. And just her becoming the vampire, again, it's just sad to see. Just a very tragic character. I like her, kinda, but I would not place her too high on my list, so I'd probably place her in C tier. That might seem a little bit cold, but yeah, she's a good part of the story, but not really a character I enjoyed all that much overall. And then we have Melusen. Man, well, I guess we have many sides to her, Faye Lancelot, Melusen, and Albion, of course, the final true blood dragon. She is a very great character, I have to say. Her being initially discovered by Aurora in the midst of the Black Mud in the Lake District was a very touching moment, that, you know, her first actual feeling of, you know, compassion, that someone actually cared for her. And that obviously plays a huge part in her, you know, becoming attached to Aurora, because, you know, she was the first one to ever care for her. And obviously that made the oh dude, the realization of Aurora, we'll get to that in a second as well, but man, that made it so much more heartbreaking. But as Melusen, she is a very nice girl. She behaves well. She's very, you know, noble. Albeit she still obviously follows Morgan's orders very tightly for the most part. And obviously she's hella strong, having, you know, Lancelot's name and whatnot, and then Albion's blood, etc. It just makes her insanely strong. She could probably even go toe-to-toe with Morgan if I had to guess. But yeah, she's just insanely strong as well. And obviously her final moments are a real highlight to me as well. Like, her becoming a calamity as well. But in the end, she could still help out the Chaldeans by breaking them out from inside the abyssal worm when all hope was lost. With her final attack, she created an opening to let everyone out, truly kind of, you know, sealing her character arc in a tragic way, as, again, most of these characters will. And of course, her relationship to Percival was very nice. I like how they developed that. That, you know, they were seemingly like raised as kind of like siblings as well, but obviously they weren't, and so there could be a bit of like hint of romance as well. I thought for one that they would make a great couple as well. And her helping, you know, Percival become the actual wielder of the sacred, or the spear of selection as well. So it all adds to her character arc, you know. I think I would place her in A tier. I know some people, or a lot of people, will probably place her in top tier, but to me, she was just great. She wasn't like amazing, but I did enjoy her most of the time when she was around. Now, I guess we should talk about Aurora next, because I just talked about Melusid as well. So Aurora, man, what a twist though. Yeah, so, I mean, maybe not. Maybe people were like, there's no way someone could be that nice. And honestly, it was true. So Aurora is, you know, the lord, or the lady of Salisbury, obviously. And she's this, you know, she seemingly like plays the good side of everyone, including Morgan. She's always like nice and, you know, goes with everyone and just treats all her people well, you know. But all of that is just, it's empty. It's empty love is what she has. It's a facade, because she only does these things for people to actually like her, you know. She never truly cared for anyone, and it even hurts even more because she never really truly cared for Melusen either. Like, the one nice deed she did was also for her own benefit. It's so heartbreaking seeing that moment when Melusen overhears her say those nasty things, and just, oh, it breaks my heart, dude. It really does. And it's only a bittersweet ending for Melusen to be the one that actually kills her as well at the end. Like, even then, she gave her the final chance that, please, just, you know, perish with your people. It's over, there's nothing to be done. And even then, she's like, no, I'm gonna leave. It's okay, they're gonna die. And then Melusen is like, no, and just kills her. Like, even with the final chance, she still chose the selfish route and tried to redeem herself again in the worst way possible. As much as I hate Aurora now, after the fact, I think she's a really good character, and I would absolutely place her in A tier though, because of the shock. A great hateable character, if you will, if that makes sense. And while we're on the topic of Aurora, I guess we can talk about Coral as well, because, you know, she's like her second in command, I suppose. I think her design is pretty lovely. But honestly, sadly, Coral didn't have the most presence on screen ever. And she was kind of cold whenever she was on screen. Although I did like the tsundere side of her, you know, that she seemingly hated humans, but she kind of cared for them anyway, even though she always tried to say like, oh, but it's only because of Aurora's orders, you know. But in my mind, she did have a soft spot for humans as well. But sadly, there really wasn't too much for her in the way of the story. So I think I would still place her in the bottom tier just because of how little impact she had on the whole story. Just being a messenger for Aurora mostly, so yeah, please don't hate me for that. Now, since I already mentioned him, we might as well talk about Percival next. Man, dude, big boy Percy. Great character arc as well. We first meet him as the leader of the Knights of the Round Table. He's just this perfect, like ideal knight in shining armor, fighting the good fight, you know? But he has his inner struggles as well. He was raised as a second, like an imitation child of prophecy, of course, because he was the wielder of the spear of selection. But there was like big flaws to this, because he's obviously not a fae. He's human. He's a pure human. So obviously, him using the power of the sacred lands will have negative impacts on him. He could only ever really unleash the power like 3 times, and the third time would obviously kill him. The first time he uses it, it's just not pretty. Like, you know, he gets very messed up, and his hair turns black partly, and it takes a lot of his life force, basically, because no human is properly capable of wielding the Spear of Selection. And of course, it's such a poetic ending when we do fight Albion at the end, on top of the storm border, that he is the one to, you know, really deliver the final finishing blow towards Albion. As you know, his and Melusen's relationship is that important, of course. They go way back. It's just very poetic, and while he does basically immediately disappear from unleashing the power again, it was a very beautiful moment in my eyes. And him mentoring Gareth was also another really sweet spot for me. I love interactions like that, you know? And obviously everyone, like all the characters, also liked him, at least on the good side. Like, he was just a very great guy. I would place him in A tier as well. Very, very good. And since again I mentioned her as well, let's talk about Gareth. Oh man, Gareth was a very interesting case. She was not just a random servant, you know, on the side of the good guys, the Knights of the Round Table, seemingly, you know. She's very much looking up to Arturia as well, again, even in this version of the story that never changes, which I found cute. And she's really trying her best to, you know, become this great knight to protect all the weak people and whatnot. And even the moment when the fairies in Londinium gave her the armor as well was just, oh, it was like, it warmed my heart so much. Which again made her end even so much more worse when the inevitable happened according to the prophecy, and the Londinium did fall once again, and she was like the only servant around. And while she did fight nobly, like killed off a bunch of Morgan's knights and whatnot, she did still meet her absolutely sad ending. But then we also finally came to the realization, and she herself too, that she is actually the reincarnation of Ainsel, the leader of the Mirror Clan, who made the prophecy for Arturia in the first place, which I thought was a great twist. And it also explained why she could see the elite knights sent by Morgan to the Welsh forest when she and Percival were fighting him, because he could turn invisible, but because of Ainsel's abilities, Gareth could actually track him. So that explains that too. And then of course in the prophecy stated that, you know, the bells would be appeared, and of course the leaders of the clan would, you know, become the bells themselves too. So with Gareth dying was basically always inevitable, because she is the reincarnation of Ainsel. So that created the final bell of Londinium for Arturia to ring, and it's just sad, but it's beautiful. And oh my god, I love Gareth so much. I'm so sad that she died. Like, she was a true, like, one of the really lawful good people. Like, everything about her, just, you cannot hate Gareth. It's just amazing. I might even go as far as to say as I'm actually gonna put Gareth in S tier, honestly. Now, again, this is absolute personal bias, but I just, every time she was on screen, I was just smiling. Really, really good addition to the story. Let's go on a lighter note here. Let's talk about the three, like, I forgot what clan they're of. Sorry about that, but the like the goblin-looking guys that originally found Mashu when she wandered out of the nameless woods. So they took her into Sheffield originally to sell her off to Bogart, basically. They had no, like, they were just like trying to make a living and whatnot. I mean, and even they were still great friends to Mashu. It's not like they betrayed her or anything. Although, sadly, one of them kinda did and then paid the price for it. Their main highlight for me, obviously, and I think for a lot of other people as well, at least for the two that remained alive, was when Sheffield was getting destroyed, and they basically opened the gate to let Bogart, Mashu, and the others escape through it to, you know, safely leave Sheffield. Now, obviously, the way the gate worked, it forced them to stay behind, and you know, obviously they were killed by Morgan's troops afterwards. It was just a beautiful moment, though. They could they felt happiness, you know, joy that they could help Mashuan out, which I thought was cute as hell as well. So, and even though one of them kind of tried to sell information about Mashu as well, and then he got killed off by Beryl, you know, even then, I don't really hate the guy too much. As is, I would probably place the two that were the you know, the really good-hearted ones, these two guys in C tier, and then, you know, kinda the guy that really, you know, sold off information in bottom tier. Again, they really didn't have that much screen time. They were only visible in Mashu's interludes, the first two anyway, so good side characters though, I would say. Okay, let's talk about some of the allies then. Da Vinci being the main ally from the Chaldean side. She was with us the entire way through. Well, not really. After we met her in Salisbury again when she was working in Mike's bar, basically. It didn't really take too long for us to get there though, for the record. But yeah, after that, basically we were together until the very end. She really didn't really have that much presence, you know, in the story of the Lostbelt so far. Besides, you know, operating the shadow border and whatnot, and obviously giving tactical advice via comms and stuff. But here she could actually be fleshed out a bit more. Now, obviously, she still acted mostly the same. She didn't really break character or anything, you know. She was still Da Vinci, good old Da Vinci, you know. Nothing wrong about that, but I do like the fact that she was with us on this journey as well, that we could actually talk to her, and she could talk to a lot of other people as well, you know. In my eyes, Da Vinci, it was a great companion. Would I say she's like one of the best, you know, we've ever seen on the good guy's side? No, absolutely not. But I'm glad we could have her with us on this journey. And I would honestly, fittingly, I'm gonna place her right next to Mike in the B tier. Speaking of the main squad, let's talk about Castor, aka Odin, aka Grimmer. So Grimmer the Sage, that's his main name in the story. He's been, he actually has had two, you know, separate summonings, but he retained his memories anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, he's, as he puts it at the end, he's the only servant summoned from the proper human history side, which I thought was a great line as well, because of the reaction that followed it. He was a big help in guiding Arturia in her pilgrimage as well. We met him first when we arrived to Orkney, basically the northest part of the Isle, and rung that bell there, and afterwards he kind of just, you know, tagged along. And I do like that there was a little bit of fan service with him and Noknaria as well. You know, them kind of being Ku and Maeve as well was very fitting in that sense. And he was a nice guy. And I loved the one thing I also loved was the banter between him and Muramasa, both being like, you know, the old guy tropes and the old wise guys, you know, lecturing the younger ones, and they could never get along, but they still obviously fought together, which I thought was cute. They were like big tsunderes to each other. For my money, I'm gonna put Grimmer in the B tier as well. So let's talk about Muramasa next then. Now, this was an interesting little twist, because obviously he's not on Chaldea's side. He's on the side of the foreign god, being one of the three alter ego disciples. And this was basically the main reason he's in the story, I suppose, of the Lostbelts. So he's like one of the major allies in this story, because of their common goal of, you know, taking down Morgan. Because Morgan is suddenly a threat to the foreign god as well. So, you know, the foreign god wanted to take care of Morgan as well, so she sent Muramasa to deal with her. Now, obviously, it didn't work out. He stormed the castle and then got yeeted by Melused or Lancelot into the Great Pit. But obviously, he's a capable guy. He didn't die there. He got back up, and then we ended up meeting him in the auction at Gloucester, which was a really funny moment as well. And we rescue him, and then we kind of talk it out, and we're suddenly, again, agreeing on a common goal. So we work together to beat Morgan. Now, there's obviously more to that as the story goes on. It always remains the main objective, but Muramasa, to me, was great. I really liked him as well. And, you know, obviously, key moment, the reason it was him of all servants in this story to be in this position was obviously when Arturia completed her memory journey through Avalon, and she arrives at the tower where she is supposed to forge Excalibur, which, by the way, was the reason she even existed in the first place, which I thought was cruel as hell. So that was really the sole purpose of her entire life. But then, because we have the legendary blacksmith himself, he could actually take the toll instead. So, yeah, he's the one to actually vanish. But they do complete Excalibur, and he actually makes himself a good guy. And obviously, there were a lot of cute, like, little, fan service moments, because obviously we have a Shiro face and Arturia face. So, very cute interactions here and there as well. And yeah, I thought in his final moments, he really was a freaking boss, though. Otherwise, he was mostly there just to, crack some jokes and be a good fighting help. But yeah, the final moments with him forging Excalibur was the real highlight to me. I would place him in B tier as well. Now, some more NPCs. Let's talk about Spriggan. Spriggan is an interesting one. I never really truly understood his story well, so feel free to, explain it to me. But he's supposed to be like a Japanese guy that's a changeling that arrived to Britain and then like changed his entire life and whatnot. And he's been alive for ages now. It's kind of weird, but it's kind of interesting, I suppose. And he's kind of a manipulator as well. He had, a lot of connections to a lot of the other people in high places, obviously. And then we learned that he was also the one responsible for making Bargas inherit the curse of the Black Dogs as well, which was also insanely fitting that truly at the end for him, during when Bargas as the Calamity arrives to Norwich, his town, and he thinks he's safe in his mega vault building, whatever, it's only fitting that Bargas just says, "No, you die now," and then he gets his comeuppance. It was a very bittersweet end for him, in my opinion. Otherwise, I kind of liked having him around, He was kind of like neutral a lot of the times, He never was really too hostile. He was a bit of a schemer. Obviously, much like Aurora, he mostly looked after himself. He didn't really seemingly care too much for Norwich either. Like, he was even willing to let the place just, go down when the first arm of Caernunnos arrived to the shores. So I can't really have too much sympathy for him, but I thought he was a good schemer. But I would probably still place him in the D tier. Just not a big fan of the guy overall. Let's just knock off the other NPCs next then. Woodrows. Very angry person, needless to say. I mean, obviously he's one of the oldest fairies as well around. He's an original A-Ray. He's been around for ages now. He's the head of the Fan Clan, super loyal to Morgan, obviously. Like, he's always been loyal. The Fan Clan loves fighting, though, and you can tell from him as well. Again, he's very angry, and he just has a lot of temper tantrums. He waxes on people if he gets angry. Just not a very nice guy to talk to, needless to say, be it ally or foe. And obviously, key moments being, him being betrayed when he does the siege on Londinium. Morgan promised to send troops, but, they never get sent. Although, then we found out that there was like a double cross going on because Morgan did send troops there because she actually does care for Woodrows. But sadly for Woodrows, good for us, Oberon was the one that negotiated with Koyanskaya, and Koyanskaya is the one to thwart his army. So there's like a really multiple layered, mess that happened there. And obviously after that, we take down Woodrows. He's like barely alive, and then the barrel thing happens, and then he doesn't die from that though. He still manages to claw himself back to Camelot into Morgan's room, but at that point it's already too late for Morgan as well, and it's a very heartfelt moment that's when they reveal again that, she always did care for him after all, but, it's just, it's sad the way things worked out. But at least he died knowing, that what Morgan truly felt, I suppose. So he could probably go out in a satisfying way, at least in his own head. I think he was okay. I wasn't a big fan, though, overall. So I would probably place him in C tier. But a good, clan leader, in my opinion. Speaking of clan leaders, let's talk about Mirian, aka Kazura Drop. So a very interesting case that obviously, she's like a pseudo-servant kind of, well, not really, but they chose to have her appearance be based on one of the Sakura 5, which obviously a lot of people found interesting, myself included. But yeah, she's the head of the Wing clan, basically, residing in Gloucester, and she always deems herself and Gloucester as the neutral city. They don't take favors, or they don't take Morgan's side, they don't take the Knights of the Round Table side. It's all neutral, basically. That's what her stance is on the outside, right? But much like Aurora and many other characters in this story, she has a facade. a very cruel thing. Now, first, before I get to that, though, I did like her relationship with Koyanskaya, though. I thought they got along perfectly. Like, they were made for each other, clearly. They're both skeevers, you know, kind of entrepreneurs, if you can see it like that as well. They were a great match, in my opinion. I enjoyed listening to them talk it out various times. But obviously, towards the end again, we learn what Mirian's true objective all this time was. Because, you know, the Wing clan was basically wiped out in the past because of the Fang clan, and seemingly, you know, she made her peace, but she never did. And once the Fang clan is, you know, mostly wiped out after the fall of Londinium and whatnot, they take refuge in Gloucester. Mirian lets them in because, again, they're neutral. They're gonna recoup there and whatnot. And then we learned the cruel thing, but probably deserved. She basically has an entire reality marble, like, of Gloucester. She shrinks them down and basically squashes them like flies, one after another. But at the end, when she's done, at that point, she's so consumed by revenge that she's just kind of a hollow husk anymore at that point. Then, obviously, she gets killed after that, tragically. But honestly, at that point, she kind of already fulfilled her own, you know, desire anyway. But she didn't seem happy, though. That's the thing. And at that point, she was so delusioned by the time she was done killing all the Fang Clan, she did not even realize they had all died at that point. So, really a tragic fate once again for another key character in this story. But I thought they played it out really well. And I would place Mirian in the B tier as well. Let's take a lighter note here, or lighten up the mood a little bit, because it's gonna get dark again soon. Let's talk about red hair, not red hair, that is. Let's talk about Red Rabbit. He's basically a fairy from the Wind Clan. He's from Aurora's, you know, place. And he's basically assigned to, you know, help us move around. It's like a gift from Aurora that, you know, he's like carrying our caravan or carriage while we go from place to place. And that's his main role, obviously. But I don't know, something about him was just amusing to have. And then they still kept the carrot gags and everything that we still have from Red Hair as well, which I loved, absolutely. Just mostly a goofy character all around, but he came in clutch at the end as well with the surprise carriage to help us get away and whatnot. So he was a key character as well in that sense. But overall, I feel like he was mostly there for comedic relief, which honestly I was okay with, because the story was so dark at times. It was nice when he ever popped out just to lighten up the mood a little bit. So I appreciate him for that. So I would actually put him in B tier, I think, which may be too high for some other people, or maybe some people would even place him higher. But yeah, I think he was a great addition because of, you know, just the mood becoming that much lighter when it needed to be. We're mostly out of NPCs at this point, but let's talk about Koyan next time, because I just talked about Mirian. So again, much like every other Lostbelt, she's, you know, visiting this one too. And, you know, this is one of the ones where, again, she had a bigger role, like Olympus, for instance. She was there to investigate the bones of Albion, to, you know, benefit her own NFF organization, obviously, but that didn't really end up working out for her. And then she took some more damage because of Lancelot being so strong, and yeah, she was just kind of after that just trying to get out of the place. You know, it was like a lost cause for her, you know, a bad business expense, if you will. But I love that, you know, as a final gift, you know, basically from Mirian via her to Chaldeans, she did save them when they were the storm border was about to be consumed by Hernanus. So she took on her beast form again and just helped them out of the pinch, which I thought was nice for her. I always like when Koyan, you know, shows some good face to the Chaldeans. Obviously, they're still enemies. I don't know, moments like that just kind of make me feel good about her. And I still love her sadistic personality as well. She's always a joy, and she always has a new outfit as well. This one is not among my favorites when it comes to her designs, but I still very much enjoyed this one too. And I'll place Koyan in B tier as well. Good stuff. Let's talk about Merlin. He doesn't obviously have a big role in the story. He has a vital role. It's a small one, but it's an important one. When, you know, Hernanus is awakening and whatnot, Calamity is starting, you know, we thought everything was going to be well when Morgan was gone and the a coronation for the new queen was happening, but no. But then Merlin steps in and says like, hey, I know a way. I know what you guys must do. And then he obviously guides us to Avalon. So we take a long journey to the, core of the earth, if you will. And we arrive to Paradise, Avalon. And there, again, we go through the memories of Castoria in order for her to, be able to forge Excalibur properly. So that was basically Merlin's role there, to guide her for that purpose. Which is funny because in the normal story, the proper human history story, he's the one that guides Arturia to become the king when she does draw the Excalibur instead of making it. It's a bit different there, I suppose. Now, there's probably going to be a lot of comments like, him doing like time magic, because, he did rewind time for like a few hours to not let Kernanas win, basically, which, sure, I may call that an ass pull, honestly, but oh well, it honestly didn't really make the story worse for me or anything, but it would probably qualify for an ass pull, honestly. But he was nice, he was there, he did his thing, and then he was gone. I'd probably place him in C tier, honestly. But, small but important role, I suppose. Now, let's talk about Knocknaria, aka Maeve, aka the descendant of Queen Mab from the Northern Fairy clans. So she's the only real member of the King clan. I guess she, takes in other fairies though, so they're like honorary members of the King clan, but she's like the only actual member of the King clan, and the whole purpose of her life is to become the new queen. And she rallies an army of northern fairies behind her, and she slowly advances against Morgan towards Camelot. And she obviously had met Arturia in the past as well, so they already knew each other. And honestly, their relationship was one of the highlights of Knocknaria's entire character for me. They were truly like these good friends, but also obviously rivals at the same time. It was like a sisterly relationship to me, honestly. That's what it felt like two sisters just like teasing each other, trying to beat each other down, but not in like a bad way. The chocolate stuff was pretty, whatever. I wasn't that big of it. Was a bit too goofy for my taste, but yeah, it did happen. And for one, I have to mention, I love her design. I am so mad we don't have a costume or a playable version of this version of her. Like, oh my god, the costumes. It's just amazing. And even more, this again, tragic, her queen outfit as well is just absolutely gorgeous. She looks amazing. And obviously, that was very short-lived, as it really is poetic, right? Because it's the same thing that happened to Morgan as well. So again, as a reminder, Morgan as Aesk in her or Pilgrimage, the original one, where we completed with her, getting Uther to be coronated as the new king in Londinium, but then everything goes badly, Uther dies, and, she realizes how bad things are. And then the same pilgrimage, Arturia does it, and this time it's supposed to be the coronation of Knocknaria, and then she dies in the coronation the same way. She is poisoned. It's so sad. They even did the CG, and when she in her final moments, when she's crying in the hands of Arturia. I even talking about it just now, dude, is making me emotional. I kind of lost it there. It's just so sad, and that was one of the biggest moments where I just said, "Fuck the fairies, dude. They deserve all the bad things." Obviously, there were a lot of other moments like that before in the story as well, but that was the one real moment where I just said, they deserve all the bad things happening to them. I have no sympathy anymore for any of the fairies. Just, so tragic. To me, she was a great character. I really much enjoyed her. Some people might place her lower, but I would place her still in A tier. I really liked her, honestly, and I really wish we can get, these costumes, or maybe a new servant even out of her someday, who knows. And let's talk about the final NPC, aka my favorite crypter, Pepe Roncino, or Aro Myorenji as his Japanese name goes. I've always loved Pepe, honestly. He's always, ever since Lostbelt 4, he's always just been a delight to have on screen, and him messing up Limbo in Olympus as well was awesome as hell. And then in this story, he's obviously a very key player. He's now a lord who resides in Norwich. He has his own, personnel and whatnot. And as soon as we meet him, he's immediately on our side. Just awesome. Like, he's obviously, his main purpose in Lostbelt 6 is to take revenge on Beryl for killing Castoria at the end of Olympus. And sadly, he himself does not get to see Beryl perish. But when we do fight Beryl, as him, turning into Woodrow's, Pepe does outsmart him, though, by absorbing the curse from all the Morses around him, basically signing his own death, and then transferring them to Beryl by making him kill him, basically, because that's how the curse, transmits. It was just poetic. He basically got what he wanted anyway. He couldn't see Beryl die, but he basically made it so that Beryl was guaranteed to die. Because remember, when we see Beryl later, the curse is just absolutely wrecking his body. And by the time Mashu finishes him, he probably was going to die regardless anyway, sooner than later. And it's just so sad to be when he just stays in the tunnel. We have to leave him behind, and then the crumbling happens and he's gone. We never see Pepe again. It's just... oh, I love this character so much. I love his funny side as well, when he's kind of like teasy to both guys and girls. Like, I love this guy, dude. He's such a great one. He's easily my favorite crypter of all of them. Even if I don't know David too well yet, I just love Pepe. And again, this is biased, but I am placing Pepe in God tier. This is not just Lostbelt 6, but definitely in this story as well. He was very much a highlight for me. Now we still have some big key players here. Let's talk about Habetrot next, or Totoro, I guess is her real name. Because it's a very interesting twist what they did. So when Mashu was sent to the past to, tag along with Iysk's pilgrimage, or Morgan's if you will, the Totoro there was Iysk's, one of her long-time companions already. And we thought it was just a coincidence, they just looked the same. But no, she's always been the same character. But the problem was, she had to let others forget about her. And as soon as Mashu remembers her at the end, she basically is fated to disappear, because the way the world works with the time travel and whatnot, she's not supposed to be there anymore. So she kind of just disappears. She was just a great supporting character. She didn't have the most screen time, at least not during the era of the High Queen stuffs, where we were mostly at. She was just a joy. I love how she simps for Mashu as well, and it made it obviously even more sense because, she had obviously met Mashu in the past, where she even made the promise to become a spinster herself, a tailor, to make her the ultimate bridal gown. And I'm happy she actually did manage to do that, because obviously she did make Mashu that amazing dress we saw during the Sheffield stuffs. So she did get to create Mashu a very beautiful outfit. And then obviously at the end, she plays an important part where, she picked up the Black Barrel from Sheffield after the Sheffield fight and brought it to Chaldeans so they could destroy the spirit core of Cernunnos and exterminate him for good. And again, as she was disappearing, it was just a bittersweet moment. It had to happen for the sake of the story, how the time travel and whatnot worked. But again, one of those moments where I almost cried, is just because of how nice of a character she was. Like, again, definition of lawful good, basically. It's always sad when characters like that go, But at the end, obviously, we still, get a tease from Da Vinci, like, hey, check it out, someone just appeared in, Chaldea, and obviously they're talking about her, so she is now a part of a full canon of Chaldea as well, so that makes it a little bit less sad to be, because, she's still gonna be around, which is awesome. Habetrot, to me, is an A-tier character. Very, very solid. Alright, I'm gonna talk about Arturia next. The main character of Lostbelt 6, Avalon Le Fay, the Fae of Paradise, she and Morgan. Oh boy, again, I already talked about her a lot during these other characters, because she really is related to a lot of these characters in many different ways, but yeah, her pilgrimage is just... the fact that she is born just to correct the mistake of the original 6 clan leaders, because they were lazy and they didn't make Excalibur, is just cruel. And it's even more cruel, again, when we see the memories of her in Tintagel when, we visit Avalon. They all hated her. They treated her like shit, dude. She was I don't understand how she managed. She was still like cheery and smiling and whatnot. She must have been like hurting inside so bad. And then the blacksmith guy as well with, oh god, and then we even see that she was there when he was like dying at the end as well, before she had to leave Tintagel to start her pilgrimage. And then she got so depressed she even went to the Nameless Woods, but obviously she can't forget her name, unlike, you know, the others can. So she just pretended, and then she met the Chaldeans, or at least the player there, and that's kind of where we started. But obviously her story was still very much already underway at that point. And the whole pilgrimage of her, you know, going through Bay Britain, bringing the 6 bells, just not just powering up, like, you know, power-wise, but also she keeps learning more about the world, everything around her, the history of everything, about Iysk, about her pilgrimages and whatnot. She constantly goes and does an inner fight of, you know, is this really can I do this even? Is this something I'm supposed to do? Like, is it gonna make things better? Like, there's so many inner struggles inside her constantly. I'm surprised she didn't, like, constantly fall apart. Like, she still managed to keep herself, you know, presentable. I cannot give her more props for that. Just crazy stuff. And she had to witness so many of her close friends die as well. Like, literally witness them die next to her. It's just a beautiful story. It really is. I think she made for an amazing main character. I don't think anyone else was gonna be a better main character than Castor Arturia in this story. While I do like Morgan a lot as well, especially because the Iysk stuff, Castoria is the one that I truly give all the props to, and she's absolutely top tier, like possibly the toppest of the tiers, you know, but I'm still just gonna place her there next to the others that I really enjoy. But yeah, I have so much more respect and admiration for Castoria and all the stuff she went through in her short life as, you know, Castor Arturia in this story. And I even loved the fact that when she came back for the final confrontation against Oberon, she was in Ascension 3, fully powered up and whatnot. It was great fan service, I have to say. And then, of course, we have to talk about Oberon. Now, you guys probably already know how I feel about Oberon, but I'm just gonna say it. I think he's the best villain of FGO, like the entire game. I think he's a masterclass of how you execute a long con in a story. Is so good, and we see all these hints and bits and pieces along the way as well. Now, obviously, most people already knew, even on NA, like that, you know, he's obviously gonna turn out bad because he's like Pretender, and we have the 3rd Ascension and whatnot. But even then, it was still a joy to read everything, and he was just a very interesting case. Even though obviously he was only ever telling lies, because that's his thing. He can only ever tell lies. He's never telling you the truth. That's just how he is. But even then, it was so fascinating hearing him talk about all this stuff. He had a lot of one-on-one talks with not just the player, but all sorts of other characters from the story. He's a very vital character. And then obviously he zooms around, flies a lot, you know, scouts, talks, negotiates, tricks, plans. He does everything, right? And man, the first time I really fell in love with him was when Bargas burned down the Welsh forest, because I think he really truly cared about the fairies in the Welsh forest. They were the only ones he truly cared about. You could tell, because afterwards, when the forest has burned down and we get Morgan's, you know, spy over there, because he kind of, you know, brought Bargas and the others there, so he was kind of, you know, the reason the forest burned down. We see basically him turn into Vortigern right there, because he's so angry. Like, he literally took apart his disguise, his facade. He was willing to risk all his entire plan, you know, failing, just to give that guy a very excruciating, painful death, basically. That alone says how much he cared about, you know, Wales and the fairies in the forest, like his domain, if you will. Now, his birth was obviously not as pretty as originally, you know, mentioned, because again, that was a lie. His birth was miserable. It was ugly. It was just decay. It's tragic. Oberon Vortigern is a super interesting character as a villain. It really is. And obviously, his hatred for Britain and the fairies is very much justified. So it's not even a villain where he's like, oh, I'm evil for the sake of evil. His story justifies all of his actions. Now, obviously, from Chaldea's point of view, he's a big problem. He's evil. He's an enemy. So it had to go down like this. They had to stop the abyssal worm because, you know, there was going to be nothing left if they didn't. So for there to complete their objective, it had to happen. In the end, it was still, again, I don't think there could have been any other possible ending. This was the only way for it to go down. And I just love everything about this character. Fantastic all around. Can't really think of anything bad about him, honestly. I could name some bad things about, you know, characters in this list otherwise. But Oberon, to me, is just amazing. And that's that. He obviously goes into the top tier as well. There you go. I probably forgot about a lot of other stuff I wanted to mention, of course, because, you know, I'm just winging this. I'm just doing a recording. Now I noticed this is over an hour long as well, so god, what a long-ass video. I'm not gonna edit this down a little bit, but yeah. Oh man, I just wanted to talk about LB6. There's so many things I liked about it. Oh man, it's just a great story, man. Just a great story. Definitely my favorite story in FGO. And I hope you guys liked it too. Again, I tried not to say anything too... I mean, there are, again, things I could say. Negative things. Like, I don't think everything is perfect. I just want this video to be positive because I truly love this story. So I don't really want to focus on anything negative, really. So I hope you guys love this story as well. And again, do let me know in the comments your thoughts about everything. I'm willing to listen about it, like be it a certain character or a certain event or the whole story, like whatever. Just, yeah. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on LB6 as well. There you go. That's my random rambling session of Avalon Le Fay. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, I guess click the thumbs up button. The video probably doesn't look that great. There's probably not that much footage going on. But yeah, maybe you liked and enjoyed listening to this, hopefully at least. And subscribe not to miss out on future videos as well. Who knows, I might do stuff like this for future chapters as well if people are interested. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care. And a peace out.